What's up, everybody? It's championship game week. I'm very conflicted today. There's a lot of emotions going on, so stay tuned because, for the first time in a long time, I don't have firm positions on things this week, and it's driving me insane. This is Breaking the Huddle. I'm Joel Klatt. This show is brought to you by Dr. Pepper, the official drink of Fansville. Let's get right into it. I'm going to give you my top 10 list, which I'm not very happy about. Then I'm going to go to the fan interaction, get your tweets in right now, bring the snark. That's what makes the show better. On Twitter, at Joel Klatt, Instagram, Joel_Klatt. You can follow us here as a group at CFB on Fox on Twitter, all things social. And let's get into it. By the way, Performers of the Week, that's coming at the end of the show as well. Let's get into it because there's a lot to talk about. And I'm going to start with my top 10 as I see it right now. Penn State stays in there at number 10. Penn State has had a remarkable year. I've been so impressed with the way that they have grown, developed, not only since week one, but also since last year. Because, again, at the beginning of the season, I didn't even have Penn State in the top 25. I thought trying to recover from Trace McSorley and his absence, trying to recover from Saquon leaving a couple of years ago, Joe Moorhead, the coordinator, leaving a couple of years ago, I thought all that was going to be somewhat insurmountable, but the defense has been amazing. Micah Parsons, Yetur Gross-Matos, both of those guys first team all Big Ten, and more power to you. Gross-Matos, you're leaving for the NFL. Thank you for a wonderful career at Penn State. Best of luck in the future there at your defensive end position. So Penn State is at number 10. I believe they played Rutgers, so we weren't really paying attention to them last week, but they stay in there. Wisconsin comes in at number 9, just a hair behind where they were for the playoff committee. Wisconsin got a huge win over Minnesota, not only for the Axe, folks, but also for the West Division crown. A nice little championship game right there up in Minneapolis. They did a couple of things, I thought, remarkably well in that game. Number one, they took away Tanner Morgan's ability to be effective with the RPO. So while he was able to throw the ball pretty well to Bateman and Johnson, two of the best wide receivers in the Big Ten, they weren't at their full capacity, Minnesota's offense. And because of that, at one point in that game, Wisconsin went on like a 32 or 38-3 run. Bateman scores an early touchdown because Wisconsin was struggling in the secondary. They had a couple of guys playing that were backups because of injuries. So Minnesota gets a big touchdown, and then it was just like a wave of Wisconsin dominance, both on defense and offense. And they were able to do that without even Jonathan Taylor going off. He didn't even rush for 100 yards, and they were still able to throw the ball effectively, run the reverses, the jet sweeps. Wisconsin had a great win. They'll be in Indianapolis on Saturday night on Fox, 8 Eastern, I believe, right? Yeah, 8 Eastern. FOX, myself, Gus Johnson, Jenny Taft will be there calling that game. So they're going to try to beat Ohio State. I don't know. Bama is at number 8. I know I've got them a lot higher than the playoff committee does. I understand what the committee was doing. There's a lot of people out there saying like, oh my gosh, they hammered Alabama. Well, Alabama doesn't have a win over a ranked opponent. So that's tough. Plus, the playoff committee is going to look at head-to-head, and they have historically a little bit more than I have, at least this year. And so Alabama had to be behind Auburn, who had to be behind some other teams. So then all of a sudden you get stuck where, okay, Alabama's got to be here. They were more slotted than ranked by the playoff committee is what I'm trying to tell you. If you were just ranking them, which I'm trying to do, you would put them right up here. Some teams have earned a higher ranking, but they're still clearly one of the better teams out there. With their backup quarterback throwing 2 pick sixes, they were within 3 in the Iron Bowl. Folks, I know that Alabama fans are unhappy, and there's been some talk about like, hey, this might be the end of the dynasty. Trust me, I tried to say that in 15 or 16, and I was flat wrong, and I'm not jumping off that cliff again. Alabama's not going anywhere. Think about what they've had to deal with this year. Unprecedented injuries on the defensive side of the ball. 4 true freshmen at times starting in the defensive front 7. They've had a quarterback issue where he fractured his hip. For God's sakes, folks, he was a Heisman candidate, maybe even going to be the winner, depending on if he would have been healthy against LSU in that matchup between 1 versus 2. And they go out there with a backup quarterback, lose by 3 to an Auburn team that everyone has told me has had the best losses of anybody in the country, and you guys are ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater? Pump your brakes a little bit. 1, Alabama's not going anywhere. 2, Saban's still unbelievable. They're recruiting at a high level. They will reload. While they're not going to have the offensive dominance next year that they may have had this year, they will reload. He is a great coach. He has reloaded as far as assistant coaches go. He continues to recruit well. Alabama's not going anywhere, folks. And I know, listen, Tide fans, you've had an unprecedented run of dominance for a decade. A decade. It's the best decade I can remember in all of college football. I know the 50s, the Oklahoma had the Bud Wilkinson era and so on and so forth. You did this in the modern era with 85 scholarships, everybody having an increased budget, having to recruit nationally, and this was the best decade of dominance that I can remember in college football. Slow down. It's okay. It's okay. Alabama will be just fine. Let's move on. And I understand, Bama fans, you might feel like this is a little weird. Did we just have a moment for the first time? Was this it? You're welcome. All right. Baylor at number 7. Let's go Baylor at number 7. Here's why I like Baylor is because they continue to develop. Charlie Brewer at quarterback is a really efficient player. Defensively, they've gotten better ever since that second half collapse against Oklahoma. In fact, they've only given up 16 points in their last 2 games. Now, albeit not against great teams, although one of them with Ellinger at quarterback was Texas, then they hammered Kansas. This is a defense that's going to have to play well if they want to stop Oklahoma's run game, because that run game for OU is starting to get churning, in particular after that loss to Kansas State. So Baylor, well done. Let me just step right here. National Coach of the Year, folks, is Matt Rule. That's who I would vote for. That's who I think you should vote for. While there's been other great performances out there from coaches, whether it's Ed Ogeron, PJ Fleck, even Ryan Day in his first year at Ohio State. Your National Coach of the Year should be Matt Rule. Look at what this guy has done. He resurrected a program in 3 seasons that has no business of being resurrected. It's not like they have a lengthy history and tradition of success. The previous regime had the most success in the school's history, and then they had a collapse of epic proportions off the field. Epic proportion. I mean, that program is dust when Matt Rule begins there. And they go from 1 win to 7 wins to 11 wins. Oh my gosh. Matt Rule is an incredible football coach. If I was a GM in the NFL or an athletic director around the country and I had a job opening, he would be my first call. Not a call, my first call. Matt Rule, well done, sir. Well done as you prepare your Baylor Bears for a Big 12 championship appearance against OU. OU is my 6th-ranked team. Lincoln Riley has done a wonderful job of manipulating this year's version of Oklahoma's team to fit what their players can do. All right, Jalen Hurts is not the passer, like I was saying all offseason, that Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield are. So something had to give. What gave? The fact that he used his quarterback to run the football more than he has in the past. Ever since that loss to Kansas State, as I mentioned just a bit ago, they have leaned on that run game. In fact, ever since that game, the fewest number of rushes they've had in a game is 41. Fewest. And in some of those games, you got 50-plus rushes, 60-plus rushes. So Kennedy Brooks has stepped up in Trey Sermon's absence, and they were rotating before, a little bit, and now it's been Kennedy Brooks. Hurts is running the football. Hurts is still statistically providing one of the best seasons out there. I know a lot of people have kind of written him off from a Heisman Trophy standpoint. But watch Saturday. Watch. Remember now, you look at the guys that have had 30 touchdown passes and 15 rushing touchdowns throughout history in college football. What do they all have in common? They won Heisman trophies. Ellinger did it last year. He was not a guy that did. But before that, it's guys like Cam Newton. It's guys like, I believe Johnny Manziel is in there. Lamar Jackson, you know what he's doing in the NFL. So Jalen Hurts, Heisman voters, just pay attention here this last week to what he's doing. I've got Georgia at number 5. Georgia's defense is going to be in the crosshairs this week, okay? Because Georgia's defense is going to be the one that's going to have to win this game for them against LSU. When you look at Georgia's offense, not only are they going to have, they have one of their, Cager is out with an ankle. The other wide receiver, I'm blanking his name right now, but he got in the fight and threw that amazing punch against Georgia Tech. Not amazing, kids. Not a selfish punch. He's going to be not available for the first half. And this is a offense that has not done really anything over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Fromm has been struggling a bit because of the lack of passing game. Even Swift has dropped a little bit as far as production goes in SEC games in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So I don't think they're going to sit there and win like 42-40 over LSU. They can't get into a shootout with Joe Burrow and win. So the pressure's on the defense. It's a great defense, folks. I mean, an unbelievable defense, but they have not seen an offense like Burrow and LSU will produce. I've got Utah at number 4. I understand that they don't have a ranked win. That's problematic, their resume. More on that in just a second. But when you look at their level of dominance and balance, it's been very good. Very good. One of the best defenses in the country, one of the most efficient offenses in the country. And one thing that's been different this year for them on offense is the fact that Tyler Huntley has gotten the ball down the field. You look at what he has been in terms of yards per attempt, it's right up there with some of the national leaders. They have Zach Moss in the backfield. Remember, their one loss, he was not available for 3 quarters against USC as he was banged up. Like I said, resume is going to be very problematic. They have been dominant as a team. In fact, in their last, I believe, 8 games, they've won by an average of 29. It's a lot. LSU at number 3. And cue all of LSU Nation wanting to hate on me, which is totally fine. You guys are like beauties, by the way. LSU fans have taken it to a new level. I thought like FSU Twitter and Vol Twitter, they're like at a certain level. And then like Tiger Twitter, you guys you're playoff ready, if you know what I mean. LSU is unbelievable. Their defense is playing much better, by the way. I was critical of their defense earlier in the year. Over the last couple of weeks, they have played much better, gotten more stops for Dave Aranda, the defensive coordinator. Remains to be seen what they'll do in a big matchup. I can't wait to see them play against Georgia, because if they continue to improve, I think they can hold Georgia to 14, 17 points, somewhere right in there. If Georgia scores more than that, they get to the 21, 28 mark, then we'll see. Remember, LSU's offense, when they played Auburn, which has a very good defense, they did not score over 30 points. So this is not the juggernaut offensively that we've seen from Oklahoma over the last couple of years. I know statistically you guys want to put yourselves in that category, but it's not quite what we've seen from Oklahoma. While it's amazing, Joe Burrow has been unreal. I love LSU. I can't wait to watch them in the playoff. And even if they lose to Georgia, I believe that LSU has still earned the right to go to the college football playoff. It would just lower their seeding, and they would have to go play probably Ohio State if Ohio State were to win. So LSU doing a great job. Love that team. I really do. Contrary to what all of you LSU fans think. Clemson is going to be at number 2. Again, balanced domination. It's all there with Clemson. Look at the last 5 games for Trevor Lawrence. All of a sudden, this guy is on fire. 18 touchdowns, no interceptions. This was a guy that struggled with interceptions early in the year. This team was bored with their schedule, bored out of their minds. Why? Because their schedule was terrible. And now all of a sudden, here they are. One of the best defenses in the country. One of the best offenses in the country. A terrific quarterback. A great running back. Who wants to play Clemson with all that experience? Yeah, that's right. No hands are up, because nobody wants to play Clemson. Whoever they play, whether it's Ohio State or LSU, I'm leaning towards favoring Clemson in the national semifinal, regardless of who they play or where. So, it's just, do you want to play Trevor Lawrence? I don't. Ask Nick Saban how that went last year. Ohio State's at number 1. Again, another dominant victory over Michigan. I know Michigan fans are upset. I could probably do an entire show just for Michigan fans and try to talk you off a ledge, but you're unreasonable, so I'm not going to do that. Ohio State, this is the wrong year, by the way, quickly on Michigan. This is the wrong year to base your entire narrative of Jim Harbaugh and he can or can't beat Ohio State. This is one of the best teams I've ever covered. So it's just the wrong year. They had a good game plan, made a couple too many mistakes, Michigan did, and Ohio State killed them. Ohio State's one of those teams, I think you have to play perfect to beat them. Like, very few penalties. You can't turn it over. If you get inside the 40-yard line, you've got to score a touchdown. You've got to get the ball on the ground from them a couple of times like we saw with Penn State. Think about it. Penn State's a top 10 team, folks. Top 10. They got 3 fumbles. 3 fumbles. Turned them into 17 points. Huge swing when Fields was about to go into that's right, Ohio State still won by double digits. Like, this team, like, they've earned the number one spot. Their resume at this point is even better than LSU. LSU's best win to date is over a number 12 ranked Alabama team. Ohio State's best win to date is over an 8th ranked Wisconsin team, and they beat that 8th ranked Wisconsin team by 31. So now, I'm sorry, LSU, as great as your season has been, and it has been unbelievable, even the resume favors Ohio State, much less just the balance and the domination with the points per game differential. It's okay. You're still going to the playoff. Your quarterback likely is still going to win the Heisman Trophy. Just relax, Tiger fans. Like, everything's going to be okay. Joe Brady ain't going anywhere. Just pump the brakes. So there's my top 10. And I hate it. And here's why. Here's why I hate it. Here's why I told you I was conflicted moving into this show. Normally, every year of the college football playoff, I have felt very convicted about who I believe should be in the playoff, and that has been based on a few very standard observations and facts that I evaluate during the year. And here they are. Number one, I've always been consistent in arguing for conference champions. Always. I argued for Penn State over Ohio State. Okay, I argued that there should be a conference champion in over the 2017 Alabama team year, even though they won the national championship. I've always been consistent in that. And then I've generally always argued for resume of the conference champions. Who have you played? Who have you beat? Okay, I don't really care who you lost to. I want to know who you've beat. At your best, where are you? Here's why I'm conflicted, is because in the back of my mind, I also want balance. I want domination. I want to see that you're a really good football team, not just on paper, but on film. So all of a sudden there's these three things, and now they're coming to a head because if LSU wins on Saturday, which they're favored to do so, so if LSU wins, we're sitting in a scenario where you could be, let's just hypothetically play this out, arguing between Utah and Oklahoma. There's no good answer. Okay? There's no good answer. They're both too flawed to argue for. Right? I don't think that you can sit here and say, this is why this team deserves to be in the playoffs for either of them. You have to argue against the other. That's a terrible position to be in. I can't stand that position. The arguments for are much weaker than the arguments against. Let's start with this. That's why the playoffs should not grow. Because the further you go down, the weaker the resumes are you're arguing between. That's number one. Number two, let's just compare these two teams. Utah has looked much better and much more dominant. I told you, 8 straight wins by 29 points, an average of 29 points. In the last 14 games that Huntley and Moss have both played all 4 quarters, they're 14-0 in those games. The defense has 5, 6, 7 NFL guys on it. They're one of the top 4 or 5 defenses in the entire country. Hard to run the ball against. Huntley has done a great job not turning the ball over. They're more explosive. They can run it. They're a balanced football team. When I watch them, I'm like, damn, Utah's really good. And their resume sucks. They don't have a win against a ranked opponent. Not one. They've only played one ranked team. They lost on a Friday night at USC. And everyone's like, well, it was a Friday night. Moss didn't play for 3 quarters. Hello? They were facing a third-string quarterback. If anyone wants to argue in that scenario, like, hey, we didn't have our best, it was that Keaton Slovis was on his back on the first third down of the game and didn't return. You see where I'm going with this? Now OU. OU. Up and down consistency-wise. Throw it great one week, can't throw it the next. Run it great, now you can't run it. Play good defense, now you don't play good defense. But you got the resume. The resume is going to be there. If you beat Baylor, you're going to have 3 wins against ranked teams. Partially because Oklahoma State stayed in the top 25. Your 2 wins against Baylor, if you win on Saturday, will be 2 wins against a team that has 11 wins. something that even if Utah beats Oregon, they cannot say. They don't even have one win over a team with double-digit wins at this point. You see where I'm going with this? This is flawed. Like, if I'm just evaluating based on the film and I'm saying, okay, you turn on the two films, who's the better team? I would probably pick Utah. Now you say, which team has earned it by their play on the field, winning away from home, winning against better teams, having ranked success, playing a Power 5 opponent in the non-conference? That clearly favors OU. There's no good option. There's no good option. And that's why I'm conflicted, and I hate it. Because if they're both conference champions, I have no idea which way the committee should go. The committee is in a terrible spot at that point if Utah beats Oregon, Oklahoma beats Baylor, and LSU beats Georgia. And that's what everyone's arguing about today because that's what everyone expects to happen. I don't know. I don't know. Do you? You're lying. No, you don't. No, you don't. Let's go to the fan interaction. I'm so, like, you see what it's done to me? When I don't have, like, a firm opinion on something, it drives me insane. Now I'm just going to pace around. I'm going to get this unsponsored coffee in for a second. All right. I'm sure we're going to get to a little bit of Heisman discussion with some of these interactions. Stop that right there, please. You passed the best tweet of the week. You see that? What is that? Upper left? Yep. I know my right from my left. How about that? I love this. Chris Kelly, thank you so much, man. I know, listen, you created this whole, I believe this is like a comic cover or advertisement or something, and Chris Kelly did this. This is really cool. You guys know about the Superman and the Avengers thing. I told you I would double down, and I did it. How do you like me now? Comics.com got them. They were reeled in, like just reeling them in like a, got them. Might do it again this week. You know why? Because it's fun. All right. This one says Klatt versus the internet. It's social media special edition. He's got Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt. We're the partners. Here's Gus right here. I'm in the middle. Clearly, you think I've spent more time in the weight room than I have. You got Dean Blandino. Dean Blandino, the oracle of officiating, the All-American girl, Jenny Taft here with the eagle up there. We got some reviews down here. SEC fan, I like it when the bird turned into freedom. Awesome. That's fantastic. Chris, thank you, man. That's a really cool deal. And this is when the internet is awesome. Most of the time it's terrible. Chris made it awesome. Way to go. It's like the Lego movie. Everything is awesome. Auburn, that's an awesome picture right there. And I think if you look like somewhere in here, that chick's still in the bushes. What's her name again? Nicole Auerbach did it a good. Go check out Nicole Auerbach's article. She found the girl that dove in the bushes and was stuck there and was just waving her hand, and she interviewed her. It's a really good article. Okay, keep going. Let's stop with Clemson here. Come on. Up here. Okay, now Clemson, you got Dabo there. I just really appreciate all the fans that came today. It was awesome to see that, Coach Sweeney says. Hashtag all in. Yeah, I mean, we should all appreciate the fans. What was that rant afterwards, though? Dabo, like, you're in, man. Like, no one thinks less of you. You're the defending national champion. You've got a 27-game win streak. No one's trying to keep you out. I'm not. I know I had you lower in the middle of the season, but guess what you started doing? Playing better. Guess what you did? Rise in my rankings. Why is Dabo so mad, man? Like, I don't quite understand it. Relax, Dabo. You're not an LSU fan. Like, I don't get that at all. Dabo, your team's awesome. Like, just let them. If you just don't say anything, you're going to go to the playoff, you'll probably be in the national championship game. And guess who wants to see you in a national championship game? Nobody. Why? You've got the experience, not only as a coach, you've got the experience at quarterback, you got a quality defense. You've got it all. Like, it's laid out in front of you. Stop. Because the more you talk, the more everyone's going to have to be like, well, you know, you haven't beat a team that's ranked yet. Good thing Virginia snuck in there at 23. Good win by Virginia, though. All right, let's keep going. Chase for 8 at Joel Klatt. 48-45 SEC game. What an incredible game. 48-45 Big 12 game. The Big 12 plays no defense. I second that sentiment. I absolutely second that sentiment. By the way, SEC fans are the most passionate about college football in the country. And I love that about them. I really do. A lot of them don't like my opinions, which is fine. That's what college football is for. But this sentiment is absolutely correct. It's absolutely correct. You can't have it both ways. It's an awesome game. It's a fabulous game. 48-45. I've loved games like that. Heisman Trophy question here. Why do the 10 to 12 teams guys, that have extra games get a chance to improve or lower their ranking regular season is over? There's a lot going on with that, Neil, with your tweet. You responded to my suggestion that, hey, voters should wait until the end of the season in order to put their ballot in. And I'm going to stand by that because it absolutely makes a ton of sense. There's no reason why we should be turning in ballots when all of these players generally who are still in the running for the Heisman Trophy have games to play. And they are the games that are the most important against the best competition. That's not a controversial position at all. And everyone's like, well, we know who's going to win it. Maybe we do know who's going to win. Joe Burrow is 99% going to take home that trophy because he's had a phenomenal year. And you know what? More power to him. I probably am going to vote him number one if things don't change drastically in this conference championship week. But guess what else is also important to these programs and these players? Being a Heisman finalist. So it's going to matter who's number 2 and who's number 3. And I'm not settled on that. Jalen Hurts is making a late push. He's got 30 touchdown passes, 15 rushing touchdowns. We haven't seen that except for historically great quarterbacks. Generally, those quarterbacks win the Heisman Trophy. Chase Young has 16 and a half sacks. I still think he is the best player in college football. J.K. Dobbins is making a late push. Jonathan Taylor almost has 6,000 yards rushing, and he's not even a senior yet. You've got Justin Fields, 37 touchdowns, only 1 interception. Trevor Lawrence is making a late push, 18 touchdowns, no interceptions over the last 5. It matters who goes to New York. Can we just watch the games? Not a controversial opinion, so let's wrap it up and move on. All right, Rob says, would you require SEC and ACC to play 9 conference games? If I was a college football commissioner, yes, I would require them to play 9 or everybody else to play 8. I don't really care if it's 8 or 9. I just want everyone to play a similar number of conference games. Let's continue to go. This one says, Marcus G says, why Taylor ahead of Dobbins? Dobbins has produced against 3 top 15 teams, and he outplayed Taylor when OSU beat Wisconsin. Yes, I put out a Heisman list. I had Jonathan Taylor just above J.K. Dobbins, and everything that you said was right. There's no doubt about it. There's also a combination of like career achievement in there, and Jonathan Taylor, like I said, I mean, this guy, no one's rushed for more yards over a 3-year span than Jonathan Taylor in college football history. That weighs in my decision a little bit, so that's my reasoning. You might not like it, but that's my reasoning. Let's move on to the performers of the week. Listen, OU was really good in Bedlam. Jalen Hurts was solid, but Kennedy Brooks was really good. Over 150 yards. They had to lean on that running game. And against Chuba Hubbard, what they did was keep Chuba Hubbard off the field by controlling the clock, running the football, and OU, again, will play for a Big 12 title. In the game I had, J.K. Dobbins was unbelievable. Career high, 211 yards rushing against Michigan's defense. He was absolutely outstanding. Virginia with Bronco Mendenhall getting a big win against Virginia Tech. They win the division. It's the 7th different winner of that division in 7 years. So everybody has tasted success. I don't know if that's parody or if it's just sadness. I would lean towards sadness, but that's how it goes. My performer of the week, though, was the guy that I saw, J.K. Dobbins. He was tremendous. And it's hard to come back against Ohio State when they can run the football with J.K. Dobbins as effectively as they do late in games. And that's why Dobbins is going to be my performer of the week this week. And I can't wait to see what he is able to do potentially against Wisconsin on Saturday night, because that's where I'll be. Indianapolis, the Big Ten championship game. Gus, Ginny, and I will have the call on Fox, 8 Eastern. Pregame starts at 7. Urban, Reggie, Matt, Brady, Rob, they're going to be there from Indy on the field, so make sure to tune in at 7 p.m. on Fox as we'll wrap up conference championship game Saturday in preparation for those rankings that will be released on Sunday. Make sure to watch all of our social channels because on Sunday I'll have live reaction. I'm going right to New York and I'll give you some reaction as soon as I possibly can from the hotel about what the committee has given us and what the matchups will be in the college football playoff this year. We've got 3 unbelievable teams and then we're arguing between some flawed resumes for number 4. We'll see how it all plays out. Thank you for watching, as always. This has been Breaking the Huddle, brought to you by Dr. Pepper. It is the official drink of Fansville. Stay tuned next week, folks. College football stays undefeated.